Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. William Morris video number 2. So today I just want to keep prepping, keep thinking, working out what I'm going to do. So I am going to glue these pieces of ephemera pages onto this paper and have them dry, and then I can cut them out and put them through the sewing machine to sort of get them ready to just be grabs to make the journal as it comes together. I'm still thinking it's going to be an envelope journal. I've watched a few more of Leslie's videos and she confuses the hell out of me, but at least I think it'll be fun, and I think I can put a bit of a twist on it myself that will help my brain at least process how to construct it. Now, someone else that is worth watching is Carol Laws. She is putting her twist on Leslie's videos, and she will she breaks it down to more of a simple understanding. And I think if you're wanting to follow someone that, you know, will do it I guess a little more explained and probably more simple way, Carol Laws's channel will be the one you'd need to go to. I just need to jot that down on my notes too, so that I can add Carol to the description box, and I'll try and find the video I watched and see her explanation. But look, at the end of the day, you've probably made the process anyway by watching Rachel from Roxy Creations. So I think I'm making a bit of a note here of things I need to add to the description. So they're the 2 kits that I've used. The music paper, I need to find out the kit, where that music paper come from. Some fabric details. And also we'll put in here Carol Law's channel and 507 Willow House, which is Leslie's. I'm not sure if that's the exact name of her channel, but I will find that out. I'll also link Rachel too from Roxy, because Rachel has been doing, like I said, this style of journal for as long as I can remember. So there'll be a few you can at least have a little look at, and then there'll be my interpretation, which, if it confuses you, which it probably will, you can go to some of the other girls and have a little look, and then yeah, off you go on your journey. And whoever you decide to decorate your journal with, whether it be William Morris or even Edith or anyone, yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And it's one of those journals too that if you were going away for a long weekend, you could just take yourself a pack of paper from a kit and just make sure you've got some ephemera elements as well as the papers themselves. A couple envelopes, different sizes. They don't have to be new envelopes. Mine won't be. They're going to be envelopes that I've salvaged from when a bill arrives. It's never a bob, it's always a bill. And I've kept the envelope and just put it in my cupboard for a rainy day. I'm sure you've seen me do this before, but you know, it's all part of it. It's all part of the prep. With my videos, you will get it all. You will get literally like you were sitting at the end of my table and we are crafting together. So you'll see not only how I do things, you'll see how my mind processes it all, the tangents I tend to go on, and I guess the big thing is my rhythm through the project. There's an underlying little steps I go through. Now, this could easily be taken to a commercial element, because I tend to operate a little bit like that. I don't hopscotch all over the place. I tend to follow the steps through of production so that if I did decide to, say, do a series of journals for sale, at least I'm in the process of that already. You know, even like this is just a muck around journal, but let's say I was doing 6 William Morris themed journals to take to market. This is exactly how I would do it. I try to touch the paper once. And while I'm on that piece of paper, what can I do so that when I come back to it, it is ready to sort of just grab? And this prepping that I'm doing now is a prime example of how to commercially get yourself ready to sell a journal. If you were doing the pages and you wanted them stitched, so you would rip all the pages, ink all the edges if you were inking, and then take them to your sewing machine and stitch them. If you were wanting ruffles on the sides of your pages, you can add them at that stage. I don't. I wait until the journal is starting to be built because I may not want that ruffle where it is, and I find it a little bit hard to pre-guess placement of textiles through a journal because sometimes they're just in the wrong spot. Having said that, if you were looking at this project with commercial eyes, you would probably have a feel for where the ruffle would be. So you know that if you did 7 pages with ruffles, there'd be at least 2 locations in one of those journals where a ruffle page would go. So that sort of happens naturally. This envelope, I don't know, might end up being too big for the journal, but we'll see. I'll get it prepped anyway. It will not hurt. So yeah, it's fun making a series of journals for sale, I find, and then breaking it down into steps so that, you know, you don't waste time and you potentially then have a product that you're going to make a profit on, which, to be honest, is really hard to do because so much effort goes into making journals, and especially if you really embellish the journal. Oh boy, you need to be selling that journal up in the over $100 to $150 to $200, depending on how much embellishing is on the journal, how much lace and textiles is in the journal. And, you know, oh boy, it's very hard to make a profit. You're doing it for the love of it, I think. And then you've got to have a price point that, you know, everyone can afford too. Not everyone can spend $200 on a journal, especially if they're gifting it to someone. It's a bit different, I guess, if it's for yourself. But yeah, everyone's different. And coming up with products that you can sell that are commercially viable. A classic side story is, in my business we have everything you need to decorate for Christmas in our stores, from outside to inside, dinner tables to walls, ceiling treatments, everything you can think of. All of the raw ingredients that a customer can grab and go and play and create something. Our staff are trained to teach people how to do that. So as they walk around the store with a customer, they help them pull it all together and get a plan of attack to create their wreath or whatever it is they're wanting to do. And we show them how to make a bow if the bow is what they want, and all sorts of stuff. But as a side thing, we also have ready-made things that can just be taken straight off the wall and taken home by the customer, because not everyone has the time to make their own wreath or garland, or could be bothered, or they might be a gentleman and the kids are coming for Christmas to him and he just wants some nice pieces to hang around his home. So he's definitely the type of customer that would just want to grab it and go. So we have to have pre-made items for the time poor, or they see a design they just love and they might buy a wreath from us and then go and make a garland that matches that wreath. And of course, once we see the style that's caught their eye, we can help them put together the elements they need to make the next piece. So my staff, and myself included, we need to make sure that we do not spend too much time on each of these pieces, because they're not cost effective. And you'd be surprised how much time can just be lost in making an element for the store. So we have to be very careful that we watch our teams, that they don't get too caught up in the detail of it. Keep it simple, not so much the design, but the process simple. So if it's a wreath that requires a bow, some baubles, and then a couple sprigs of foliage, well then let's have a think about where the bow goes, how the bow is made. If, like, I'm rolling my hands there, that represents the loops. That's me talking to a customer now. That's how I describe it in the store. You get your ribbon and you roll it through your hand and then grab it in the middle with some wire and then wire it onto the wreath. So yeah, and it applies to journals. We have to break this down into processes. I know it's all fuzzy romantic as we create one journal and we pour our heart and soul into it, but you will not get your money back for the time you've invested. Admittedly, you don't get a lot back for your time that's invested. It is really hard. Hence why you'll see a lot of journal makers will have a side thing going as well, I believe. And that might be kits, it might be fabric packs, it might be digitals. So it definitely is an industry where I think you need to either be making a similar style of journal and just pushing them through. Pick your theme, pick your colour, boom, 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 boom. It's the only way to go. If you're doing that, you could do more bespoke, interesting journals, but I think you would need to have a backup plan in the way of fabric packs and papers and digital kits and things like that. Supplies, I guess. Or the third category, I think, now I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct on all this. This is just my observation of the industry. The third category is the bespoke journal. So that's when you see these journals pop up for sale that are full on. They are over the top, magnificent pieces of art. So for example, it might be a boho journal, it might be a shabby chic journal, a lace journal. Yeah, a lot of textiles, a lot of creativity within the pages. You know, off the chart stuff. Those journals you'll see will be in that $200, $150 to $200 Australian dollars category. And yeah, you've got to put in the hours into it to take it to the next level to get the big bucks. Unless, of course, you are in the industry and you have developed a name. So your brand is out there, your name is out there as a creator. Well, then a premium can be added to your journals. Depending on what level they are, it doesn't really matter because you are a William Morris of the industry. So people will pay premium dollars for a piece of your creativity, which is super cool. If you can get your business to that level, oh, hats off to you, because you're up there with the William Morrises of his time, you know. You may not be producing items for the general household of the royal aristocrats of society, but you're definitely out there as being a creator or a designer in the industry. And you usually find those folk also have a fantastic side business as well. They'll be supplying, you know, bits and pieces for the rest of us to follow and join in on, which I think is so cool. And then if they have time, which they probably won't because they are 100% immersed in their business, which is just so good if you can pull that off, you'll find that they may then go into more personal meets and greets and retreats and, you know, all that type of thing, which is super, super cool, because then we mere mortals get to actually meet them and spend some time with them and see how they tick and, you know, watch their creativity in the flesh. So that'd be like going back in time and spending the weekend with William Morris and saying, how do you do this, William? How do you do that? Why did you do that? So yeah, it's a very interesting industry, the junk journal industry. We've got all sorts of characters within our industry. We've got all sorts of level of skill. And I love the fact that YouTube brings us all together. I love the fact that I can drop in to the craft room of all sorts of levels of designers, from the top end of town to people who are just starting out, and then following those guys and watching them grow their skills and develop. And oh, it's so good, especially if you pick up on a couple newbies and just hang with them and just watch, because you will see their style develop, their confidence develop. Oops. It's like when we hire a new staff member at work, and you can just see they walk into our Christmas shops and their eyes are just like, where do I look? You've got so many products, there's thousands of items. There's the creativity they need to understand, how to advise customers to be creative. You can just see their heads are spinning. And they often start with us at a young age, and you roll forward 5 years and they're sort of going through uni, or, you know, they've started with us and they might have been in grade 11, grade 10. 5 years on, you have such an accomplished person who has slowly picked up all these little morsels and developed their own style, their own swagger, whether it be creativeness like making a wreath, or just communicating to complete strangers about creativity. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And YouTube allows us to do that as well, when we find, you know, someone new, and watch them and watch their style develop, and, you know, and what other aspects of their channel develop with them. So do they start selling what they make? Do they start getting digital kits created? I love it. I love watching that. That's probably my second hobby, is watching business grow and develop in an industry. It's really, really interesting. Am I finished my pile? Nearly. Nearly. Can't decide about Etsy. I've been watching Etsy too, and I'm noticing that a lot of fees are going up. Like, they're really taking their chunk out of designers. I understand that they have costs. They do. And it's a big business to run. But I would have thought most of the mechanics of the business have been created now. So they're at that stage where the business is running on its own accord. All they've got to do now is maintain. They're in that maintenance stage. Yes, there'd be a little bit of development, and they'd be looking for opportunities to add to their business platform. They do promote you through social media and Google, and throw your products up so that you get new customers. But I just don't know if the creative people out there, whether it be journals or an earring maker or, you know, whatever, are going to hang with them 5 years from now? I just don't know. I have a feeling there's an undertone, and it's not just our industry. It's numerous industry, printing houses, and the company that print my uniforms. They also have a site within Etsy where you can upload a file and, you know, get a shirt printed or whatever in something embroidered on a hat or things like that. So it's like a side element to their business. And they're also talking about the cost to do business with Etsy. So it's not just our world, it's many worlds. And when you start hearing that, you will have someone out there who maybe have a version similar to Etsy, or been around a little while and are just sitting quietly to the side. They're not the number one out there. Etsy's number one. It might be, you know, some other random company. You'll see a change happen. They'll come into the market and they'll do something slightly different. Etsy will drop away and up comes a new guy. So I just can't decide if Etsy is going to be the Amazon that we have in the retail sector, that it's just cannibalized and taken over. It's getting close to the point where we have no other choice but to buy a lot of our things from Amazon. Will Etsy continue along that vein, or will they get bumped off by someone? I don't know. It's very interesting. Anyway, the next thing I want to do is those things are under my mat with pressure on them to dry. So they'll need to sit tight. Then they'll get cut up and go to my sewing machine. So that's a job for another day. Now I don't need this paper, so I can get rid of that. I do want to play with some envelopes. So this is one that I was fiddling around with. So I'm just going to grab some materials out, and we're going to have a go at making a base for our journal. So I had a little flip and a play and a flop and a... Okay, where do I start? Let me grab my post-it note, because I'm going to use the post-it note to sort of help me keep my way through this logical. I do need a piece of paper as well, because I'm going to use strips of it to join these envelopes where needed, because my envelopes are secondhand. So the flap that Leslie and Carol use is glued down. It's not an option. So I need to create a new joining system. The other thing that we need to do is I need to open them up as well, because if I don't do that now, it's going to make it hard, I believe, when it comes to decorating, to access the inside of the envelope in here with pretty William Morris paper. So I'm slicing the top and bottom. You can always rejoin them, and I'm just slithering off just a little bit so that they're now open. And I think I need 3, maybe 4, but definitely 3. So bear with me as we put this together, because when you watch Leslie and even Carol's videos on this, you can see how easy it is to get bamboozled. I'll see if I can find another one of the Commonwealth Bank, because I'd sort of like the paper to be similar. There's one. I'm not sure if I even need 4, but anyway. And then I've just got some little ones that are brand new with a flap. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Could be a disaster, but anyway, it's just paper. What does it matter? Just turning my phone off because it was still on. So, now, get the right way up. I'm just going to write on there, front and back. Let's ignore these two envelopes first, because they are the decorative element to the front of the journal. So that means I need one of these to be cut down a little bit. And I did it crooked. So one of the big envelopes is going on the front, and then there's a little guy. So maybe let's do that first. This is like, we'll call this the tricky bit at the front of your journal, the flippy flop at the front, as Leslie would say. And that's just a case of attaching this little guy to a cut down. And now I've got no glue. That's because this last project I did, I left that cap off so many times. Now I'm leaving a little gap between the two so that when I stitch in signatures, I have space for them to actually sit. Now there probably won't be a signature here, but I'm going to try and get into the habit of doing it now, because that way if this gets quite bulky, I can access it. Not access it, I'm talking access by realizing that this needs to be cut open too, so that I can put the paper in there. Okay, so that's the first element, little envelope stuck to cut down big envelope. So let's just put that to one side, because that's going to go on the very front of our project. So that's that bit done. Now I'm going to flip this over now to the back, and I have added another one of those little envelopes, which I have some spare here. So let's go back to the front and let's get the first few pages sorted of our journal. Okay, now we need to open this up, which it is. So what I've got is the back of the envelope, and the window is down on my table. And that piece we just made is going to sit on top, which is what I'm flipping here over to the side. Don't worry about that at this stage, because that is going to show where I want a signature added. So that's how I sort of kept my noodle straight as I did this project. That's my hot tip. My envelope should be split so that it opens to allow me to slide William inside, which it does. But we need it to now flip over, exposing that pocket window. So we're going to grab another envelope, and I'm going to turn it around so I have a pocket here and a pocket there, purely doing that for interest. It also needs to be able to be open so we can slide William in to decorate. And the next thing I need to do is tear a piece of paper to join them. Because I don't have envelopes with flaps, because they're recycled envelopes, I need to create my very own hinge, which is what I'm doing here. So I've torn off a piece of paper, it's an inch. I'm going to fold it in half, and this is going to form my spine. I will reinforce it somewhat more as we create, because I think that's where I'm going to bring in some William Morris fabric to really, you know, cement home our theme that we're doing. So I'm just going to grab my glue now and put a line of glue down there and attach this as my hinge, and making sure that it's not 100% on the fold, because having that little gap will allow me to put paper in there to make the actual journal. Does that make sense? Clear as mud. And of course we want the windows on opposite sides, because I think that'll just be really cool to have these peekaboo windows through the journal. Okay. All right, so that's what it looks like. So ignore this little flap. That will be added when we come back through, just to give some more little fun elements. We're just working on the base. So we've got our two envelopes joined. They are opening up so we can slide Pretty William paper in. We've got a seam now. We've got a bit of a gap between the envelopes. You can see that there. See that gap, the ridge line? That allows us to have space for papers. So let's follow through. There's our opening. There's our opening. Now we're getting to the next envelope. Now this envelope needs to glue. It's the start of the concertina. Okay, so that and that is what we're looking at, except there's this extra envelope. So let's grab our third envelope, have a little look at where the pocket is. I think having the pockets is really going to help you place things, because you've sort of got some reference point. It might be a logo. If you don't have window pockets, logo, or put an X. And then when you go to reproduce it, you'll follow the X's. So this envelope is going to actually sit here like that, but the hinge is this side now. So let's create another hinge. Let's get our paper, about 1 inch, tear it down. Fold it in half. And we need our hinge to be over here. Oh, stop looking at it, because I knew I was right. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So this and this are going to be hinged together. So let's put some glue on there. And let's attach that to there, making sure we've got a little bit of a gap. So that we've got room for our papers to actually, oh goodness me, I'm all hands. So you don't have that gap now. It's not a big thing, but you will not be able to put in as much, I just want to check my windows, so just bear with me, guys. So I need my window to be down this side. Okay. I'm purely doing that so that I know I'm copying it perfectly, for no other reason. It's just my map. This, when you watch Leslie's video, it's like a swamp, a swamp of twists and turns that just confuse you. And poor old Leslie, you can see, it's like she's done them 100 times, but when you go to do it on camera to show you guys what she's doing, or just even myself, You just get, oh, it's like going round and round and round in a circle. Okay, so now that guy is in position. So if I just open that up, there we go. Does that make sense? So that's my 3 envelopes adhered. I can now trim off this excess. So you can see I have a joining place, a joining of the spine on either side. And that then creates this concertina effect. Now, if those envelopes weren't open, it wouldn't be as confusing. And I think that's what stuffs up everyone when they try to do this, is because we have these random flaps everywhere. So probably open the envelopes at the end, but I've done it prior because I sort of want to know that they're, you know, definitely open. So that's the mechanism. You've got one envelope here, joined to the next, joined to the next. So we're creating a concertina. So the journaling or the journals have the opportunity to go in these joins. They don't have to, but that's the theory is that a cluster of papers would sit in there and a cluster of papers would sit in there. So if you can get your basic concertina created, you're 3/4 of the way there. Now, let's go back to the front where we've got our join. I just want to make sure I got it up the right way. So when I open it, it looks like my example. Otherwise, we'll have everyone confused. Okay, so that now is the same as this. So let's get that first element that we made, which was the cut down envelope, pocket in here, and the little new envelope flipping on the side. We want that to join on the side here, and the paper I'm going to use is going to tuck inside. This is where, if you had new envelopes, this would fold out and slide in under, which is what Leslie has, and Carol. I don't, so I'm having to make these hinges to make my scrap envelopes actually work for me. So let's get another hinge. Let's fold it in half. And I think once you get one made, you put it aside and just keep it. So if you do come back to this on a rainy day, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to have that cut open, and I'm going to glue this paper inside. It could go on the back, it doesn't have to go inside, but let's, for argument's sake, just put it on the inside. I hope that's the right thing to tell you. It's only paper, don't overthink it. So we're creating a flip now on the front of our journal. So I'm going to just glue. Now, because this is not going to actually have journal pages involved in it, it can just be glued right to the edge and it will fold. So now we have this little element with a hinge. So we get our envelope, and we might as well tuck it on the inside as well, and then it's forever gone and it's not out here, which doesn't really matter, to be honest. So that's where it's going to go. Now I'm going to center my envelope just down a little bit. So I've got the little guy, the cut down guy, and the top of my journal. So a little bit of a layered effect happening, and it's going to fit in that gap there. You can always come back with your glue and just make sure everything is glued down nicely. So, you know, if you just want to put a line of glue, that's fine. Now let's snip that off, because that's, no, I'll leave it for a moment because it'll show you how many little hinges we've created by letting that sit out like that as a visual. So now our little envelope journal has a flip out and a flip out, so there's something to play with. and then we're into the actual start of the journal itself. So a lot of fun there. Now let's open it up so we're into the center of our journal, and let's get another envelope and attach it to make another flip. So this little guy I'm going to use, and it's got a little bit of sticky already on it because it is new. It has a flap already, which is super cool. We don't have to create anything. This little guy now is just going to glue right there. Just a little bit in from the edge. If it does bash into a seam, we can always slither that off to make it come back a little bit. But that could be a pocket, could be a tab holder, whatever. It's just a little element in there that we will decorate. So now let's just flip it over. There's the inside of our book, our envelope, so we can put William through there. Turn it one more time. I just can't pick things up. Turn it one more time. There's a hinge where our two envelopes joined. So let's flip that over. And now we're going to add another little envelope. And it's going to be a new one. And we're going to have it come around. So I'm folding that back on itself. You don't have to do that. You can attach it however you like. All I know is I want it attached to the last page of our concertina. So I'm just going to hang it over that edge so that it sits to the center. Okay, so I'm going to need some glue on here. And I'm just going to hang it. Oh, hold the phone. I'm going to hang it over there. That was nearly crucial. Okay, so that's now there. Okay, and now we're to the back of our construction. Just gluing those little corners down. Alrighty, so let's have another look. So we only created one more hinge. Everything else sort of joined in okay. So let's just flip this back and back. So our three envelopes have now had an additional one, a cut down, 2, 3 little envelopes added. Now, by all means, you could add more. You could put another little envelope on the front here and it flips out and like you could go to town. It might be a case of the William Morris envelopes in part of the ephemera kit gets added as well. So that's the basic construction. Now, this is where the post-it notes come in. Let's assume that this post-it note is a cluster of papers that we want to put into the journal. And this is how I'm going to keep my head straight so I know where I'm heading in the building of it. Because if you watch Leslie's videos, she'll have a handful of papers that she's working on and decorating, and they're constantly coming in and out of the envelope construction. To me, I would get confused. They are going to end up in a mess and they're going to be all over the place, and I just won't be able to enjoy the process. So I want to know that I've pre-thought this through a little bit. So I've worked out where my clusters of pages to create a journal are going to go, and that post-it note tells me that that spine is going to have pages added in there. Does that make sense? Now that can change because I just take my post-it note and I move it to a new location, which might happen, but at least this is a guide to keep my head straight. So you want to be able to flip through the journal one way, and when you get to the back with one flip over, you are going back through the journal. That's the trick. So for example, you're looking in there, you're looking in there. Oh, there's a journal. You're now flipping that over, there's another journal, there's a flip out, and then you're at the back, and then you flip it over. Oh, sorry, you then work back through. Have I got that right? Goodness me. Yeah. So you get to the back page, and now you go again, and all of this will be joined, so this will feel like a substantial cover. You flip that out, there's a journal, flip that out, that will be joined to there, and you're now back to your cover. So it's like doing a circle around your concertina. So let's now put in here the rest of the post-it notes so that we know, where we're heading. So we've got our first one. We're now going to flip that over, and we should find there's another little envelope we can add. We haven't added this guy. So let's grab our envelope. So there was one more. That's awesome. So we're now to the center, and we're going to add a little flip. That explains why there was an envelope left on my desk. I'm just bending that back on itself, and I'm just going to glue that there. And this is another spot for some journal pages. Now, we're now to the back of the journal. So now we should be able to open it up again. 1, 2. You see, if they were all joined, it would not be as confusing. And I think that's what catches everyone. We're going to have another journal in here. And now we're back to the beginning of the book. So we've done a 360. So let's write front on here. So open, 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 little flip to the back. Open, and back to the front. So if we stand that up now and get back to our concertina, we should see a yellow post-it note in 3 locations. One at the front, one in the middle, and one as you go back through. You see that? There's our 3 big envelopes, one there, one there, one there. Journal going in here into this triangle, journal going into here, and a journal going into here. And just to make things more crazy and interesting, we've got these random little flaps that have been added to the concertina as well. So in summary, we need to make 3 clusters of papers, 3 journals to slide in here, and when they get stitched in, they will be into the hinge that we created right at the very beginning. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. This is a really tricky little project, but if you remember that it's 3 envelopes to start with and get them into a concertina, you don't have to open them up. I did that because, well, why did I do that? You really don't need to do that. I guess another way you could do this, I just had another thought, is lay 3 envelopes down on the page, join them. Here we go. This is real simple. And maybe make your windows at different spots, heights, whatever, just for interest. Maybe make your middle one like that. And lay a strip of paper here, a strip of paper here. When they're joined, concertina them. Have one bending that way and this one bending up. Okay, so there's your concertina. Like, why didn't I do this in the beginning? There you go. 2, 3, join them, concertina them. Once you've got your little concertina of envelopes, Then put the decorative one on the front, which is the one cut down and the little guy, and attach them. You just need to have it so it goes open from the, like that. So it's another little concertina basically. So your hinge is over here and open it up from there. Doesn't really matter that there's a window there or not, doesn't matter. And then as you go through your journal, wherever there is going to be a stitched in signature, put another little envelope. Like I could put a second one here as well, so they both flip out, which might happen with the William Morris piece of ephemera. But at least there's, you know, 3 or 4 pockets through it already. Okay, I think that's enough of the construction. I've got 2 of them now. I probably should keep one in my stash, but nah, let's just decorate both of them. Then they're done. We can always recreate this. At the end of the day, it's a concertina, and then you add extra envelopes to have flip outs. Can't be much simpler than that. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. I will dig out all of these papers that are underneath. Looks like we're making 2 journals, so that'll be fun. And I'm still going to do something in the slow stitch. There'll be some form of a William Morris inspired bird stitchery, so we will need to make a journal for that as well. So I might go hunting out a cover and get that process started too. Okay everyone, look after yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.